Okay, so we're gonna be harvesting some cedar today with a small group of people, and one of the things that you need when you do harvest cedar is you need a hatchet, a knife, a rope, a small first aid kit in case you cut yourself. And then some of the things that you need to harvest cedar that you don't see on this table are happy thoughts, lots of love, and a can-do attitude. So let's go get some cedar.
On our walk out there, let's learn about how to identify a cedar tree. Basically, they look like this. They have scales instead of needles, and their branches are kind of droopy. This is what their bark looks like. The best places to find good trees on public lands is by stream channels. And once we get out to the forest,
it's good to smudge yourself off. So if you have some sage bundles or cedar bundles, whatever you prefer to smudge with, you can clean yourself off before you step foot into the sacred cedar grove.
So one of the first things we like to do before we harvest is to say a prayer. We want to give it the best energy we can and just say a short prayer. Thank you, Creator, for seeing this knowledge as something worthy of passing down from generation to generation. Thank you for the ancestors that held on to this knowledge that is here alive for us to use today. Thank you for the path you made for us. Thank you for all the people that are on that path that keep us on that path. Thank you for all the blessings you bestowed upon us on that path, and thank you for all the things that are on that path that keep us on that path that leads straight to you. Oh, thank you, Creator.
The first thing that we want to do when we come up to a big cedar tree like this is to properly greet the tree. Chbayats, Slachel, Chbayats, Aslobil Jachu, Altir Slachel, Aslobil Jud. Good day, cedar tree. How are you today? I'm doing all right. I would like some cedar bark from you today. I'm looking for some shluai, some inner bark for weaving. Dahadubj, thank you for the gift.
Hello, Cedar. My name is Raymond. I'm going to harvest some cedar from you today. Whatever you will give to me, I will use in a most positive manner.
We also want to make sure that the tree is big enough. A rule of thumb is that when you go to hug the cedar tree, your fingers should not overlap. We need to look for things like, is there a smooth part of the trunk that will give me good bark? Is there clear bark above where I'm going to start the pull from? So you have to make sure that it has good smooth bark, width-wise and height-wise.
And I'd like to leave a gift for you. So we have some water, and I pour a little bit in my hand, drop some on its trunk, and say thank you for the gift I'm about to receive.
So now I've said all my prayers to this tree that I'm going to, and I've got my tools, and I'm going to go ahead and take a strip. The way that the cedar bark on a tree works is in layers. We have an outer bark layer, an inner bark layer, and then we have the wood. We want to get through the outer bark, through the inner bark, right down to the wood.
So now, after we get our line cut, do some vertical cuts. And I like to get the tip of the hatchet and just run it downwards, going through. There you go. And if you can get a good, nice cut on that, you get your hatchet and you go underneath the bark. Oh, I can hear it. Oh, there we go. And once you get a long enough piece, I like to put my hand in there, like all the way up to the elbow. So I go, try to get your hand to go up as far as you can. There you go. There you go.
And if you're too early, that moisture in there will still be thick and sappy.
You pull down and away. There you go. There you go. There you go.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Super long.
We're gonna use a rope to pull the rest of this because sometimes you can get further away from the tree and you can't pull it, so you're gonna need a rope. We've used this rope many times to pull off cedar, and you just tie a loop on that side and pull it through, and then go up the strip a little bit, and then when you pull on it, it holds on. Now you can step away from the tree and pull down and away. Oh. And that's how you use the rope to pull off the cedar bark. That's just the first step, and now we're gonna have to process this.
If the piece is too wide, sometimes I'll take and narrow it down lengthwise before I start. One way you can strip them lengthwise is to pry them apart by folding them like a taco, and it'll strip right down the middle. I have two strips that are about hand width apart. So this is really good. I can actually hold this in my hand, separating them. A couple ways to do this. One way is how I'm going to show you, and that's bending it over your knee. So you kind of make a break in the outer bark and then pull the rough bark off. And then you can pull the inner bark down and pull your outer bark up. It's challenging, of course, to keep a nice uniform cut going. But you can see that it's possible to just split it just where you're right on the edge. As you can see, this is the inner bark, that's the outer bark, and this is what I want. I want to be right on the line where I've got mostly down to the white inner bark, but I'm not pulling away too much inner bark. I'm right on that edge, so I'm getting mixed layers.
And I've seen people pull this like easy, like it just comes apart. Like how do they do that? It's like shooting a 3-pointer, you know? And finesse. You gotta finesse it a little bit, you know?
These thin pieces that I've gathered, I'm intentionally setting them aside in a spot where I will remember them to tie my bundles of cedar together.
Right here, this is where I'm gonna use the knife. We use the hatchet to get it off there. This is where I'm gonna start using the knife. And just get in between bark, and it just comes right apart too. You don't have to try to cut or saw or anything like that. You just use it to separate, and then you can just start pulling the outer bark off like that, see? And so you just start peeling it off. I was pulling on this part, and I pulled out, I separated it a little bit. So I'm gonna use my knife to get in between and pull this piece down, because I want it to be thicker all the way through on this side. This side got thin because it's stuck up there. So now I start to pull it, so now it's thicker again. See? The knife is just to keep your pulling even. There we go. Now it's starting to pull off. As you pull down, it'll break, and then it'll leave these things up there. So you got to be able to work both sides. You have to work this side and this side. So, ooh, almost cut myself.
Cutting away from your knee, it's not a huge deal. But for people who are just learning how to get comfortable with knives, just be really careful when using knives and trying to get the bark off of the sluai. The part that we want, the inner bark, is called sluai. Now I'm going to figure out how I want to bundle this up. There's a couple ways to do it. Some people like to kind of fold it zigzag. We'll just start at one end and start folding it in a kind of zigzag. This is the way that you see the old timers carrying their bark. It's the way that cedar has been carried for a very long time.
Tie it together. And that's it. Got your bundle of cedar.
Now, we will store and cure these cedar bundles in a cool, dry area with good ventilation. We let them cure 4 to 6 months minimum. And yes, curing does make a huge difference in the quality of the product. In the first few weeks, check on the bundles to make sure no mold is growing. If there is mold, take it outside and spray it with a bleach solution and let it dry in the sun. Thanks for watching. There are way more teachings behind harvesting cedar than were included in this tutorial. So keep an eye out for more videos on harvesting and processing sluet. Goodbye. Hoi.